Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Egyptian Mystery School teaching. This is part of our spring semester, and we are in the first week after spring equinox. We are moving into what we are calling Holy Week in the Christian terms, and this is a week between spring equinox and Beltane as we're moving in this next 6-week cycle. So as we're speaking to this, I created an assignment that is spring 1 and spring 2. The spring 1 is a ritual and altar practice for you to do. And this is creating a living temple space for the next following 3 weeks. And it honors the balance of your heart in the balance of creation and also of protection, which is really important right now as this new life emerges. And the altar is evoking the deeper teachings of Sekhmet and Isis, Yeshua, the Christos consciousness, and then also Divine Mother Mary, and then Anubis as protection. So this is the energies we're going to be working with, the archetypical energies. And so the teachings really are talking about mostly just creating your altar and then just letting it kind of flow over the next 3 weeks and having some daily sadhana time where you work with your altar. And then if you want to add on any breath work or any yoga or any sacred dance or any other practices to that, then you can do that. But I did not assign specific practices other than working with the elements with your altar. So take a look at that and it'll be available in your assignment. So we're working with the invocation of Divine Mother Mary and Yeshua. Take a moment to drop into your heart. Open your heart space. Get out of your head. Just release whatever you need to release. Shake it off. And we'll take a moment to set the tone and our intention. This is a season of resurrection consciousness. This is a season where the light begins to grow again. This is where the soul is asked to prepare itself to carry more of that light. And wherever in your life you are feeling you need to just pour that light, take a moment to open your heart into that part of your life right now. And really just tap into the energy of Yeshua and Divine Mother Mary. So just open your heart to the light, stand in the light, to connect to these energies of the I Am consciousness, the Christ Sophia consciousness, the Mother Mary consciousness, and opening our heart to love, resurrecting the energy of our own being as we see everything blooming and growing in spring. And just connecting to the earth, the element of earth as things are popping alive, flowers are popping up, trees are blooming, and all of the leaves are coming in. The birds are having baby birds and lots of bird song and singing. And just as the world is awake and alive and just really tapping into that spirit of growth right now. I invite you to also light a candle if you have a candle nearby. So I'm going to grab my candle. Take a moment to grab your candle. And then if you have any water, get your water and have that by you as well. So I've been utilizing this green candle through our embodied chakra journey, and then some white candles. These are just simple altar candles that you can get anywhere. And we're going to go ahead and light our fire together. And then I also have an incense here. So invoke the element of air. So take a moment to check in with the fire, the water, the air. If you have any crystals or stones, to check in with the element of earth. And then let's just take a moment to drink our water together, holding our sacred water to our heart. If you have a sacred vessel or a glass vessel, or you have any invocations that you've put on your water, any intentions. This one has divine love. Probably, I don't know if it's acting weird because of my background. It has the Sri Yantra on it, sacred geometry. So take a moment just to set that intention to connect to your love of your I am source. However you call that. You may not call it Yeshua or Divine Mother Mary. If that feels good for you, utilize those archetypes. And then we're just going to take a moment to connect to that divine love and take a nice big drink. And with every drink, just connecting to that love. So the altar really that you're creating is a physical mirror of your inner temple. And our mystery school work is really about embodiment. It's not really a theory-based workshop. Everything that we do is completely embodied. And this is why I've shifted the teachings of the yoga and the chakras to the embodied chakra series, because without embodiment, we're not bringing it to the earth. Your altar does become a place where your devotion and your reflection and your prayer anchor in the teachings into the body and into your daily life, into the somatic practices, into how you can apply that for every day. So in week 1, we're going to be doing a heart awakening. In week 2, we're going to be doing the creative waters. In week 3, we're working with sacred protection. And we will be working with Sekhmet and Isis, Yeshua, Divine Mother Mary, and Anubis. So the main teachings here I'm going to teach today, and this is coming into Holy Week. And this is a teaching of Yeshua and the parable of the 10 virgins. And you may have heard this parable. Actually, it was new to me. I hadn't studied any biblical studies from the Christian religion since I was about 19. I grew up in the Christian church. I grew up in the Episcopalian church and the Lutheran church. And we did study some in our confirmation classes, but that was it. I didn't really have any Bible study at home. My grandma read her Bible. I have not really connected with the traditional Bible because there is so much distortion and dogma. But these teachings are expanded from that distortion, coming to the heart of the parables where Yeshua has taught. So Takata is just coming in, and we're going to begin to start this teaching of Yeshua and the parables of the 10 virgins. So come on in. And
hello.
Take a breath. Rose is on, and
Hi,
Laura and
Rose.
Gina, so everybody's here.
Hi, Gina.
And those of you that are watching the recording, if you are in the Egyptian Mystery School, you will have access to these assignments. We'll be able to discuss these in our Sangha chat inside our private chat. But I'm going to just start with this parable because it was new to me. So the mystery of the oil is inspired by sourcing it from a beautiful teachings, and her name is anotaro.com. And this is reframed from these teachings that I received from her. Her name is Ahava, and I follow her on social media as well. She does a lot of deep teachings with Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene energy. And so I was really inspired from that. I've been talking to my sister a lot about the teachings of Christ, and she's really diving deep into relearning those teachings through a whole new frame as an adult. Although I mentioned I don't necessarily enroll in any of the dogma, I do appreciate the teachings and the higher consciousness of the teachings through Yeshua or Jesus Christ. And so in the days leading up,
Jesus is my homeboy.
yes,
It's not the rules and regulations.
yeah, all the things. So in the days leading, we just took a drink of sacred water and set our intentions to go do that. Yes. So as I'm recording this, if you are not aware, this is the week between Palm Sunday and Ostera. In the Christian tradition, it's called Easter. In the tradition, in the actual teachings of Jesus, there was no such thing as Easter because Jesus was living in it. So there's no such thing as Easter. It's just a made up thing. So many days after Pentecost or whatever they call it, it's just a count on the Gregorian calendar. It's not even a thing.
It's actually aligned astrologically because it is based on the first full moon after the spring equinox is what determines when Easter Sunday is.
So it's actually pagan. It's actually pagan. You know, who knew? So Ostera is the name of the Celtic medicine wheel holiday. And in the days leading to Friday, which is also called Black Friday, or we have Maundy Thursday, you have Ash Wednesday, and you have all the teachings leading up to the crucifixion, which happened on Friday. And then he was in the grave or in the tomb, according to Christian teachings, for 3 days. And then as he reemerged and resurrected, the stone was rolled away and he was not there. And so I'm going to teach you a little bit about some of the parables he was teaching, some of the teachings. And this is the mystery of the oil, the parable of the 10 virgins. So
the 3 days in the tomb part is actually also extracted and pulled. It was separated and put into a different time frame, but it actually came from the winter solstice and what is considered the
darkest hour.
The darkest hour in the 3 days in which the sun does not actually move and stays within the same degree for those 3 days. In what is the darkest 3 days of the year. So
it's kind of like a weird jump in time, because that actually happened, as you know, if you're following the medicine wheel, 2 6-week cycles ago. So we had Candlemas, and then we had Yule. So that was actually not even the right time frame, which is really strange. And then we have Friday, which is also called Good Friday. I don't know why they call it Good Friday, because Jesus was killed. But then they say the blood of the Lamb washed over all of our sins. And it means that the Passover used to happen when they were in the olden times. They would have to put blood of a lamb on the door frame so that they would be passed over and they wouldn't have to take their firstborn child. So there's just a lot of intermixing of these teachings, but I'm going to teach you about these parables today. So in the days leading up to the crucifixion, sacred scripture tells us that Yeshua returned to the temple and he offered his final teachings. These teachings were not casual stories. They were initiatory transmissions, giving at the threshold between death and resurrection. And one of these teachings is known as the parable of the 10 virgins. Now, at first glance, it appears to be a simple moral story. 5 wise, 5 foolish, lamps and oil waiting for a bridegroom. But within the language of the mysteries, this teaching describes something much deeper, the inner preparation which is required for divine union within. So the virgins in the story, in the mystical tradition, the word virgin does not refer to sexuality or gender. It refers to wholeness. And so Mother Mary, Virgin Mary, is actually whole and complete. The virgin soul is one that is undivided within itself. It's a consciousness that has gathered its energy inward rather than scattering it through distraction, fragmentation, or unconscious living. Mystery schools across many traditions teach the same principle. Before union with the divine can happen, the soul must first become whole enough to hold it. You want to speak to any of that before we move on to the next symbol? So the next symbol is the lamp. In the parable, each soul carries a lamp. The lamp represents this vessel of our life, our body, our nervous system, our spiritual practice, our daily choices. The lamp is the structure through which light can shine, but the lamp alone is not enough. Many people have the appearance of spirituality. They have rituals, philosophies, identities, and practices, but structure alone does not sustain illumination. So the next piece, the next symbol is the oil. The oil is the essence of the teachings. So this is the essence of the representation of the inner anointing, the living flame, which is cultivated through devotion, through sincerity, and through inner refinement. In mystery school language, this is what we call the sacred substance of the conscious. It grows through things like prayer, devotion, integrity, purification, and presence. And it's not something that can be purchased or transmitted from somebody else. We have to do the work ourselves. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be transferred from teacher to student. Each soul must cultivate its own oil. And this is really appropriate right now for some things that are going through my family. And I'll share that when we turn off the recording in our Sangha. The midnight hour is the next really important point in this parable. In the parable, the bridegroom arrives at midnight. So this is talking about Yeshua. Midnight represents the threshold between the worlds. It's where the veil is the thinnest. It's where we can walk in both of those worlds. So they might have translated the word midnight, but it really can be the walking between the veils. A moment when the divine becomes available in a deeper way. But divine union is not entered through a longing alone. It's entered through a readiness of our being. When the moment arrives, only the lamps with oil can remain lit. So the bridal chamber. In mystery traditions, speak of the bridal chamber. And this is not a literal place. It is a state of consciousness in which the soul experiences unity with the divine. It is the realization that the separation we once believed in was never truly real. The path into that chamber requires preparation. It requires the cultivation of our inner substance. So now to talk about Mary Magdalene and the recognition. This is why Mary Magdalene recognizes the resurrected Christ. Recognition comes from consciousness. If we are not at the frequency to see it, we won't see it. She recognizes him because she is already living in sacred union. Her devotion has prepared the vessel, and her love has cultivated the oil. She is cultivating the inner fire. She is the temple of the sacred fire. So within the Egyptian mystery school, to integrate this in language, we might say Isis prepares the vessel, Sekhmet protects the flame, and Anubis guards the threshold. And the path of the embodied Yeshua and the Divine Mother teaches the heart how to remain open within that process. And the question for each initiate becomes, are we building the lamp, or are we cultivating the oil? So if we talk about the parable, there is 5 women who came with oil, and there's 5 women who came without. And only the initiates that had the oil were allowed into the bridal chamber. The other ones did not have the container to hold the light. Their light burnt out. It was a superficial vessel. It was empty. It wasn't filled. It wasn't anointed with the Spirit.
I sat in 350 ayahuasca ceremonies, and I knew.
Exactly.
That's look at how big the brim of my hat is. It's so sacred.
Yeah, and even in the Christian world, I go to church every Sunday and every Wednesday. I mean, I'm right. I'm a good Christian. I pray every day at my dinner table. But do you have the teachings of Yeshua and Mary in your heart? In your being? Have you created a practice every day to cultivate that love, to cultivate that light, to hold that container fill it with oil? Have you been filling your vessel with oil from these sacred practices? Are you merging in sacred union within self, within the divine masculine, the divine feminine, within self? Have we been honoring both of those sides of our being so that we can live in that sacred union? And only from that place can we reflect that to someone else, or see our twin flame reflection, or the reflection in another mirror, another human, another soul. And this is why Mary Magdalene could see Yeshua. She could truly see him when he was resurrected. She was in the frequency of love. She was in that frequency where she was already embodied. And so this is really deep teachings, it's really, there's a lot here to unpack. And so I'd like to pull up one more thing, and then we're gonna,
I would like to speak to the resurrection itself. So, of course, in like the text biblically, it speaks to the resurrection as like he's come back to life again, right? But there is the or the rebirth, if you will, that takes place. Now, at 33 years of age is the time frame in which Christ was crucified and then reborn, resurrected.
33 is the master teacher number. It's in our Saturn return. You've finished your Saturn return, which comes between 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Saturn is now not in this position where it was when you were born. It's not so jarring and so rocky. That's why when we get to around 30, so many things in our life get upheaved.
Yeah.
And he was 33.
It's around 33 that we actually go through a rebirth process. That's truly when we step into our adult level of the human experience. Not to say that 20-somethings are not adults, but there's a level of wisdom and awareness that is attained by about 33 that this happens. Now, the Saturn return that comes in at 28 causes the reflection and the kind of the unfolding of the releasing of the child that once was the adult that is becoming, and you're somewhere kind of in between. You're like, okay, I've taken on these adult roles, but I still have, this child within me. At approximately 33 is where we actually are reborn into the next level version of ourselves, and moving from the place of the understanding that is gained through that process of releasing the child, honoring the child, and fully stepping into that adult role. It's very significant. So that was the rebirth, the resurrection that actually takes place.
Yes, in the mystery school teachings, this is how we would explain it. It's taught very differently in parables in Christianity, and there's so many teachings there, and I want to go a little bit deeper into the parable itself. So in the story, there are 10 souls that wait with lamps for the arrival of the bridegroom. 5 of those carry oil for their lamps, and 5 do not. When the bridegroom arrives at midnight, bridegroom meaning coming in a sacred union with the masculine Yeshua and the virgin feminine, the archetypical energy of the divine mother, and the bridegroom, Mary Magdalene. And coming into this merging, only those whose lamps are prepared are able to enter the wedding chamber or the temple, or the temple of the heart. It's not an actual place. This is where things get distorted. People see these as external teachings. Within the language of the mysteries, this teaching reveals something essential about the spiritual path. The lamp represents the vessel of our life, our body, our consciousness, our spiritual practice, and the structure through which our light shines, because our path is how we shine our light. If we lived in a cave all 50 years, we wouldn't be able to shine our light in the world. And some do have to do that to clear their karma or to enlighten or whatever. But most everybody else utilizes that vessel of our life as our lamp, our shining our light. I mean, we have a metaphysical shop named La Lighthouse, because we are literally shining our light. It's inside a place called Casa de Luz, which is the house of light. There are no accidents here. And so this is why we teach the shining of the light through our daily work. We have to first make sure that we're carrying the oil. The oil represents the inner substance that sustains the flame. If the flame will just burn out, once your candle is out of wick and out of wax, it will not continue to burn. It's done. It has no fuel. So this is cultivated. And how do we cultivate that fuel? Through devotion, through integrity, through prayer, and our living embodiment of our spiritual awareness. This teaching is not about the judgment between the worthy and the unworthy. It's not about sinners. It's not about hell, fire, damnation, any of that. Instead, it reveals a simple truth. Divine union within requires readiness. This oil cannot be borrowed. It cannot be given by another. It must be cultivated within our soul itself. And when the moment of divine encounter arrives, often unexpectedly, we either are capable of sustaining that light, or we're not yet prepared to hold it. And this is why I'd say in a lot of my readings, if you have there's a card in the Akashic that comes up often when people are asking about their sacred union within their partner, if they have a partner, if they have that divine union, or and I don't know the future for them. I don't ever tell the future for somebody, but one card that comes up very often has a clock tower at 12 o'clock, and it has two souls, a man and a woman, coming to meet in the center courtyard. If it comes in reversed, it can mean that those people are just looking down on their phone. They have completely tapped out. They haven't cultivated the energy to see when that person arrives in their life. And when it comes in and arrives upright, and that clock tower is pointing to something else, it might have an indication of what is signaling that arrival. How will I know when this is the right person? Because we are preparing our inner garden. We are preparing for that divine masculine, divine feminine, sacred union within ourselves. And then we can see it mirrored in reality, in our projection in this world. So in the mystery traditions, we might call this as this current Isis, preparing our vessel, the sacred divine mother, the priestess, preparing our yoni, preparing our womb space, preparing our inner journey into the cosmic realms. Sekhmet protects the sacred flame. She is the guardian. She is the teacher of these ancient temples. She is the lion-headed goddess, and she is fierce, but yet she is compassionate. She's loving, but yet she's harsh. She's brash, but she will guard her temple with all cost. And Anubis is guarding the threshold between the worlds. This arrival at midnight, this arrival with the oil, coming prepared to meet your bridegroom, meaning that we are right here between this threshold. This is a very sacred portal. And it is within the sacred teachings of the Celtic medicine wheel. This is right here at this mark. And Anubis is guarding the threshold between those worlds. The path of devotion embodied by Yeshua and the compassionate presence of Divine Mother Mary remind us that the heart must remain open while the soul prepares itself to carry the light. This teaching invites each of us to reflect deeply. Are we simply carrying the lamp of spiritual identity, or are we cultivating the oil that keeps the flame alive? Would you like to speak to that? Anything?
Nothing is coming to mind at this moment.
I mean, I feel complete in that. For those of you that are in the classroom, we have a set of journaling assignments to go with this, so you can really deepen. You can drop into that and really reflect as we go into this Holy Week. I'm not asking you to work with archetypes that don't feel comfortable for you, but we are deepening that inner journey of the sacred union within. So, anything else?
I mean, I can speak to my own experience to some degree in small form, but prior to our recognition of other, I had within sacred union, I had within self had like maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years before, had an experience in which I recognized the sacred union within myself had fully occurred. And I was in a space of feeling whole and complete within myself and in union with myself as my own partner. And I was
This is what we're calling the bridegroom.
very happy and very comfortable and content in that space of union within myself. I knew that I could count on myself. I knew I could lean on myself. I trusted myself. I just felt complete balance and was absolutely just completely fine with the possibility that there might not be an other in being my own other. I was very at peace with that as a possibility. I was not restricting of any of an other coming in, but I was not attached to the need of an other. I was just in union with self and very, just at peace within that. And then it was like the universe was like, okay, that's cool. Yay, you got it. But guess what? Now the next step is actually union within self in union with other.
Well, we had a year of ceremony. Oh. We had a year as ceremony partners where she really stood in that sacred role of holding the masculine part of the container for our ceremonies. And I sat in the role of holding the feminine part of that container in our ceremonies. And we felt really comfortable in those roles. And we got really strong in those roles, but we also supported those roles. And this was all through our work, and then we formulated Inner Goddess retreats and Temple Sacred Heart together and decided we were going to travel together and be business partners and travel the world teaching and holding these containers for women around the world to do this deeper work. And it wasn't until after a whole year of that, the vessel was prepared. We cultivated the oil. And then in January of 2021, we realized and we found out that we were also meant to be in sacred union as divine partners. And there was a whole next level that was revealed through that twin flame union, which, it was shocking for myself included. And I had done previous work within finding union within myself, within my own yogic practice. I had a very deep very regimented and very strong yoga practice. And I had taught yoga at that point for 12, 13 years. I practiced the deeper aspects of yoga within my own self, honoring the Ida, the feminine, the Pingala, the masculine, cultivating the central energy of the Sushumna channel. And I'd been a Reiki master at that point since 2010. And I had taught the energy for hundreds, if not over 1,000 people now. And that energy of connecting to that stream of consciousness that is that divine force that we work with on the yin stream. And so there was so much preparation that and even though that was all there, we still didn't recognize each other for over a year. And then it was recognized, and
because there was no seeking of other outside of self.
And I was within a divine union, which I had thought was my permanent situation, my permanent trajectory, because I was and have been monogamous. And I was in a relationship that was 28 and a half years. And so I didn't see anything outside of that. And so thank you so much for, listening to that. And that is just really, that was an example of the cultivation of the inner flame and keeping that oil full. So that way, when that flame is lit, it will not go out and it will continue to grow. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. And then those of you that are on, just stay on and we will continue the conversation. And see you on the next one. Thank you.